apparently the Riot MMO is coming back. That's what we need.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Why I have not made a Riot MMO video in the last 6 months. As many of you know, at the beginning of 2024, the highly anticipated Riot Games MMO set in the Runeterra universe, quote unquote, reset. And while I would love to go into the details about how when a game's direction is reset, that doesn't...
So, reset, what does that mean? We know that Ghostcrawler was on the project. He was super excited to do all of this shit, and then all of a sudden, Ghostcrawler was like, yo, peace out, personal reasons, nothing wrong with the game, I'm just leaving. And then Ghostcrawler was like, oh, by the way, even though I have a bunch of personal reasons and I can't work on the Riot MMO, I'm going to be working on my own personal MMO. Great. High five. No one saw that coming, which to me, in my conspiracy-addled brain, tells me that he saw a direction that the Riot MMO was going that he didn't like. My biggest concern is that Ghostcrawler might know what he's talking about, primarily because he was right about druids in WoW. But just because he's right, just because he's had some good takes in the past, he's had some bad ones as well. A broken clock can still be right twice a day. So maybe he, you know, they were like, we're taking this in a whole new direction. Ghostcrawler was like, fuck this, I want my old shit from like 2010. So maybe it's good, maybe it's bad.
Mean that they are just wiping the entire slate clean, but during this announcement of a reset, Mark Merrill stated that they would be going dark for some time, which for me was a little bit strange because I have been following the MMO for 3 years, and to put it bluntly, they've really kind of always been dark. Any information that I've been able to scrap together for this channel has been coming from job postings or random tweets from different developers. So when they told me they were going dark, I kind of rolled my eyes. We have new hires. We have job postings. We even have Mark Merrill talking about the MMO in a very short snippet during a Cadril interview.
Is there anything you can say about it at all? Yeah, well, we're working hard on it.
So let's go into detail about some of these new hires, the new job postings, and talk about what the future of the Riot MMO is and when we...
My big concern for the Riot MMO, and I don't think this is going to happen, but my biggest concern is that it's going to end up in the same state as Dragon Age Veilguard, with all the Wokenese stuff put in there, but I don't think it will, personally. I think that like big game studios are starting to see what a bad idea it is to lean into the people who don't actually play fucking video games, and that it's just gonna cause more excruciating losses for them. League might have good lore and all, but it's all catered on pre-made characters. They might have a hard time weaving something for player-made character narrative. I don't think they will. If you are good at building stories for a bunch of characters, making someone the central focus point for a character in a larger world is not that difficult. Dark Souls did it well, right? Bloodborne, they did it again. Even the walking simulator, Death Stranding, right? And I think, genuinely, the only reason a lot of longtime veterans stuck around in League, aside from being mentally ill, is probably because they enjoy the story of the character, and they get to experience that in some sense when they play the game. I don't think Riot have the talent to make a game by their own. I don't think they need to have the talent. I think they need to find the talent, Newgash. And I think they can find the talent. Whether they do or don't, whether they use fucked up hiring practices and hire all the wrong people, might happen. But I think they've got a good track record of finding the correct people. The animation studio that did Arcane was one in France. It wasn't in-house. I don't know anybody who knows anything about the LoL lore, and I know a lot who played. I know a lot about League lore. I do. Newgash, but here's the reason no one talks about it, right? You walk out in public and you say, I know a lot about the League of Legends stories. You know what's going to happen? Everyone in public's going to be like, what are you, gay? What What's wrong with you? Ugh. We're gonna get that white van and a big jacket with the long sleeves, and they're gonna come collect you just now. Just stay right here. That's what's gonna happen if you go out in public and you say stuff about league law.
We can expect to get information, because that's what I like to do here. If you're into this kind of more detective work, background information, MMO, Riot MMO, Cope, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and let's just jump right into it. So first thing I want to talk about is the team and some of its new hires and some of the changes we have seen coming from.
So Lux, Garen, very easy, nice basic story, brother and sister. Sister lives in a city where mages are kind of like, you know, treated like shit. It's like magic racism, where instead of against black people, it's against people with magic, right? And they live in a city built on petricite. Petricite's a stone that's pulled from petrified trees that absorbs magic and suppresses that shit, right? This whole cinematic, if as far as I remember it, was about the escape of Silas and a big civil war that's happening because mages keep popping up and causing problems, and the city keeps on being like, take these filthy miggers and get them out of our city. And when I say mig, I'm not talking about the N, I'm saying M.
From kind of the
that
background.
Needs to be made clear.
The team on the Riot MMO has always
they have a
been
problem with
stacked,
mages.
and this is true for many of these new hires as well. First off, I guess we should probably talk about Fabrice. With the reset happening early this year, VJ handed over the reins of executive producer to Fabrice, and VJ went back to his original position of technical director. Fabrice is coming from EA and BioWare, where he worked on Mass Effect, Star Wars Squadrons, and a few unannounced titles and new IPs as well. Honestly, there isn't a ton to say about Fabrice. He does a lot more kind of on the back end of hiring and managing projects than actually developing them himself. And
yeah, that means nothing to me.
He's been mostly quiet since getting the new role, aside from promoting various new MMO job postings, which we will get into later in the video.
Means nothing.
But we did have one other new hire that I am personally incredibly excited about. I'm, of course, talking about Orlando Salvatore. Orlando Salvatore got hired on the Riot Games MMORPG as an engineering manager, which on the surface probably sounds not very exciting and he's just doing programming and stuff. But that's not actually the case here, and his resume is just completely stacked. So let's go into it.
Like I said, like there are great micro stories between characters, but what about macro stories like when you have 100 derpy dudes running around? So Doverin, yeah, let me give you a little bit of hopium before the MMO comes out and it completely fucking sucks. This is your macro story. This is your macro story. Right? You have all these different regions interacting with one another. The Freljord is basically the Vikings. Noxus is basically evil Spartans. Demacia is basically Crusaders who think they're cool, but they're actually the bad guys when they're pretending to be the good guys. You've got Piltover and Zorn, that's all arcane shit. You've got Ionia, which is like fantasy Asia, where kung fu, martial arts, and like all the magic chi powers and shit is real. Then you've got Bilgewater, which is basically Pirates of the Caribbean. You got the Shadow Isles, and all these areas interact with one another. And yes, I'm aware that these guys are not actually evil Spartans. They're more like a somewhere between like Persian inspiration and like military kind of storming areas. Targon is kind of closer to that if you want to look at Pantheon, but Pantheon's like a single Spartan. He's like just a Leonidas copy, right? This entire thing right here will tell you the whole lore of the macro story of this shit. League Nazis, basically. Yeah, kind of. Kind of. So yeah, when it comes to macro story, they do a pretty good job of interlacing all of it. I don't think it's perfect. I think there's things they could do better. But I think if you're going to look at the landscape of grand scale stories for gaming, you've got Warhammer 40k. You have the past story of Warcraft before they fucked it up. You have League of Legends. And I struggle to see another grand scale story on such a widespread scale from any other company out there aside from those. I'm sure there are others, but I can't think of them right now.
quick. Before getting hired at Riot Games, Orlando worked at Blizzard Entertainment on World of Warcraft. During his time at WoW, he spent a lot of time focusing on horizontal gameplay, which is something people don't really see a lot of in World of Warcraft. But that all changed this last year. We saw crazy battle royale events called Plunderstorm. We saw added follower dungeons to just create the ease and flow of gameplay for new players and old players alike, leveling alts or just trying to see some more of the dungeon content. We also saw Mists of Pandaria Remix, which was a retelling of the Mists of Pandaria expansion, but kind of...
Everyone loved Pandaria, but I couldn't give a fuck about it. I honestly couldn't give a fuck about it. I fell off so hard before Pandaria came out that I stopped caring.
Modernized and given a lot of different twists to make the gameplay exciting and more engaging. And the person at the forefront for all of these developments was Orlando Salvatore. Just scrolling through his Twitter announcement, I can see many highly well thought of people.
That's his wins. I don't want to know about Orlando's wins. I want to judge Orlando on his losses. I want to see what lessons he's learned. I want to see his list of failures that led him to the point where he's going to be good enough to not make those failures again.
In the World of Warcraft community, commenting on how exciting it is that he's joining the Riot MMO team. And personally, I think these kind of horizontal gameplay experiences are something that would really set the Riot MMO apart from every other MMO out there. This horizontal gameplay can provide experience that aren't just go do dungeon, get better gear.
And the game ages better. Let's be honest. He's showing Guild Wars 2 footage for a reason. Guild Wars aged like a fine wine. WoW aged like fucking milk.
Go do dungeon, get better gear. Do the raid, get better gear. And this endless treadmill of gearing that can be fun for some of the player base, but it's so much more exciting to have a world where there's different things to do. And that's one of the reasons I believe MMOs are so exciting, is that an MMO can really just have multiple different ways of playing it. And depending on your mood for the day, you can jump in and do those things.
Also, can we just be honest about something? Can we just be straight up honest? Is this Vi not hotter than the one that's in Arcane? Is this not a way hotter Vi than what we saw in Arcane? Maybe it's just me, but I think she looks better here than in Arcane. I like the redhead Vi. That's fair. That's a gentleman's take. I can agree to that.
Do those things. Imagine a game mode where you go in after Mordekaiser and you go into the undead realms and you spend 15 minutes hunting down different souls and trying to capture them, or I don't even know. I'm just, first thing that came to mind while making this video. I'm spitballing right now, but all these different things.
100% Mordekaiser needs to be a raid boss. 100 fucking percent he needs to be a raid boss if he's in the game.
That aren't necessarily just grinding gear or doing the main core gameplay loop, but side things that may come seasonally or be in and out of rotation. I think it's a really fun idea and something that Orlando is specifically attuned to creating for the Riot.
There's just something. There's just something about this character model that's just, it looks better than the one in Arcana. I don't know what it is. Sesame Timbers indeed.
MMO. Obviously, they also said at the beginning of the year during the reset announcement that they didn't want to just make World of Warcraft with a new set of paint. So maybe all of his experience at the World of Warcraft isn't going to carry over directly to the Riot MMO, but I don't know. What do you guys think? Make sure you leave a comment down below. And
what about Israel? The problem is, like, I don't find underage girls attractive, Gash. So, like, I can't really comment on Israel. Like, I know she's, like a young character, and she, like, found a gauntlet that's supposed to belong to Cassidon, blah, 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 all of that shit, but, isn't it a boy? You'd like to believe that, wouldn't you?
Tell me if you're excited about this new hire. Also, in the last couple months, we got 2 new job postings.
That's a girl.
Those are principal
Come on.
UX design.
Come on, let's be honest. Come on, let's be honest. Let's be honest here. Come on. You know that Israel's a girl. The same way people call their Discord kitten a girl? Yeah. Israel's a girl.
Designer and staff software engineer, Unreal Tools. Now, the first position of UX designer isn't super exciting to look at. It is a very, very important part of an MMORPG because, as many of you know, I hate most MMORPG UIs. Look at World of Warcraft, Black Desert Online.
Let's be honest about something. I think this is not as important as he thinks. And I'm going to tell you this for one reason. He just disproved his point right here by doing this. This was the world's largest MMORPG. The most popular in the fucking world. And it was a goddamn disaster when it came to its UX. All of the shit, and the worst part is what he's posting here, he's posting it with mods that are meant to fix the UX, right? That makes it even worse. But if you play WoW, Raw Dog, if you Raw Dog WoW, no mods on like the UI, and you leave it as is, no condom, you rip the condom off and you play it raw, right? It's still a pretty bad UI. But no one gave a fuck because the story, the characters, the actual gameplay was decent enough to carry it past that. And I think if they get sloppy on this and the game is still good and it feels good to play, they can get away with this being shitty and fix it over time. And even if they don't fix it, guess what? There's a million modders who are like, damn, looks like it's time to get to work.
Throne in Liberty, all of these games have just a bloated, terrible user experience. And I hope it's something that Riot Games can make better moving into the future, and something that's more accepting for people who are coming from other genres and are new to the MMO space. At least for me though, I'm more excited about this engineer Unreal Tools, as I believe the job posting actually reveals a lot of information about where the project is at and where...
Does that mean they're going to use an Unreal Engine derivative? I think if they try to do third person, they're now competing with Ashes of Creation, they're competing with WoW, they're competing with Guild Wars 2, they're competing with Black Desert Online, they're competing with all these big names in the space, and they're trying to pull from the same player base, which would be a really, really bad idea. Specifically because that means you are now going to be a direct comparator. If you go and you compete with something like Core Punk, if you compete with Lost Ark, which is now Bot Ark, you have a better chance of success, and you can bring newer people into the genre, and the people playing League now can translate their skills directly over to the MMO, which means that you're pulling from your natural player base and you're pulling from a newer player base, and you're more likely to get the little zooms involved if they don't see a WoW UX, and if it's not third person like every other MMO out there.
Where we can expect the game to be in 2024 and moving onwards. And that brings us to one very short but very important sentence.
But also, I might be wrong. They might just lean into third person because we're all pining for a new third person MMORPG, and we're willing to settle for less than what we should because we're so tired of the old shit.
Found in the responsibilities section of this job posting. As development advances into full production, iterate on robust, scalable, and performant solutions. Now you could probably just ignore that.
That's a fucking word salad. That doesn't mean as much as he thinks it does. That's a word salad. That's like, do your fucking job. You go and be a goddamn systems engineer. That's just do your job. And it means I won't even have to consider playing it, which I think is a positive. That's fair, Iceback. That's a fair take.
That last part, because it's just a bunch of buzzwords for making good solutions, basically. But that first part states that
Kindred?
They are looking to move into full...
What's Kindred doing in Detroit? I haven't seen this cinematic that's going on in the background. I've been out of LOL for a while, so I haven't seen this one. The keyword would be full production, means they've figured out what they want to do. Yeah, that's true. If they're moving, that is true. If they've moved into full production, that hopefully means they're moving somewhere finally, which means that in the next 25 years, we might get an MMO. It's a teaser for a skin. Okay, that's why I don't care. That makes sense. I mean, then again, it's Riot game, people will play it. It's like when Valve makes a game, you will play it just because it's a Valve game. That's fair. But that's probably the right way to go, Dovrin, is to start with your current base and then try and expand outwards, rather than trying to capture an entirely new audience you know nothing about.
Production. And an Unreal Tools engineer is exactly what is needed to move an Unreal Engine project into full production. The example I like to use is that within Unreal Engine, you need to create tools to better streamline the process of production within games. So something like creating items, you'll have a drop-down menu that'll choose the rarity, the item level, the name of the item, which slot it will go into on a character sheet.
I mean, that's all pretty standard.
And so much more depending on the game itself. So what this role is going to do is create all these tools that'll create items, monsters, bosses, and so much more for the
tool engineer makes tools before production, though. Yes and no, Dovrin. So what a tools engineer will do is he will sit in an office and he will build out a list of tools that they know they need before production begins. And what's going to happen during production is as they start developing things, they're going to be like, actually, there's going to be this huge chunk of shit that we need to do, and we need a specific tool to make our lives easier, so that this next project is going to be you building out this hyper-specific tool for 1 month, us developing it for 6 months, rather than you don't build the tool and it's going to spend us, like, send us the next, spend us. It's going to make us spend the next 12 months developing this without the tool, which means that we take even longer, right? So it's yes and no. He'll get a request for tools as they're working on it, but he'll also do a bunch beforehand.
Assets that the art team has already been working on for 3+ years now. And I don't know about you guys, but that's incredibly exciting news to see that the Riot MMO could be going into a full-fledged production coming.
I haven't seen this Rihanna concert
very, very soon. As always, I'm so happy to share this news with you guys. This is pretty exciting stuff. We've had little to no news almost all year that and the news that we did have was kind of negative. So seeing these awesome job postings, the new team members coming onto the team, I'm once again filled to the brim with copium, and I honestly hope you guys are too. As always, make sure you join my Discord. We're gonna start a guild for this game, and we've already kind of started playing games together, but I just want to see more and more of your guys' faces there. Links will be in the description below. And do you think this is gonna be good news for the MMO moving forward? If you do, make sure you leave a comment, like the video. My name is Spun, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.
Okay, so that was kind of that was a little bit disappointing. I thought there was going to be more to it than that. That was more like piecing together small components and being like, okay, it's moving somewhere, which is good. That's like a decent update. That missed my expectations of it, but it's good to see that they're moving, because I honestly thought that the Riot MMO was dead. I thought it was gone. I thought they realized what a bad idea being in the MMO space was, and they just gave up. But no, apparently it's moving somewhere, which is good.